Hey, everybody, how are you doing? This is Joel. I'm really sorry we're so late. We've had some technological problems, but we're all here. We are really happy to have you. I promise you, we will do better next week. We will not let this happen again. No matter what, it won't happen again. So, everybody, welcome. It looks like we've got about 9 of you so far. Um, I don't think Rakesh is going to be with us this week. He seems to be under the weather. So, for anybody that's new here, my name is Joel. You see on your screen, hopefully you're seeing on your screen is Ashfak, and
Oh,
we're a part of the IOD Nations.org team. And so if we seem a little um, out of it today or whatever, we had a tough time this morning. So we apologize for that. So if you're not familiar with IOD Nations, we are a Substack, but we're an organization, a project that I developed that is based upon the idea of getting the pro freedom and democracy citizens of the world to unite online. And what I mean by that is um, in one or just a couple of locations. So, for instance, in our past shows, you've seen us have quite a few discussions about what what I call the International Online Democratic Women's Nation. And so the way that I envision that is um, so right now we're in the United States, we're facing this issue of the authoritarian religious right rise in the United States and the effect that it's having on our nation, on our economy, on our society, on our politics, and all of that. So, to give you an example, right now there's a bill being proposed in Tennessee. It's called HB 570. And what HB 570 says is that abortion would now be considered murder. Okay. Now, what's different about our Substack, what's different about our mission is we don't want to get caught up in all of the bad things about that. We don't want to get caught up in complaining about the things that are happening, naming a bunch of bad politicians or bad leaders and everything that they're doing. What we're here to do is we are here to focus on how can we resist and fight back? What what tactics, what strategies, what things can we as pro-democracy citizens implement in order to have an impact on changing what is happening? And my premise, if you go to iodnations.org, that's iodnations.org. If you go to iodnations.org, you'll see a book that I wrote. It's called The Recipe. If you could tap your screen 3 times and save world democracy, would you do it? And then the other side of that is called the Meritocracy Manifesto. And so in the Meritocracy Manifesto, what I do is I did a Q&A with a major AI, and I walked it through step by step. What's the current situation in our online world? And it's based upon the premise that there's only 2 forms of human collaboration. It's either primarily authoritarian or it's primarily freedom and democracy. Okay. And in that scenario, um, with having to try and force AI to answer questions clearly, it becomes very obvious that the internet, our virtual world, is an authoritarian world right now. Okay, the Peter Thiels of the world, the Elon Musks, the Mark Zuckerbergs, these are all, whether they have good intentions or bad, okay, these are all authoritarians. They're at the top. They make the decisions on what happens. They make the decisions on how their algorithms work. They make the decisions that Ashfak and I can't go in and run an ad um, using the words freedom or democracy. We can't run an ad that we pay for and do that because somehow that's deemed improper. And as long as we live and exist in an environment like that, freedom and democracy don't stand a chance. If you can't run advertisements with the words freedom and democracy in them online with the major social media platform or platforms, how, how do you expect freedom and democracy to survive, much less thrive? And so when we look at that, what we say is, or what we do is we ask this fundamental question. So to everyone that's here, and I've done this before, I'm just going to do it over and over again on our shows because of how important it is, and it takes a while for it to fully sink in for people to understand this. But I ask the question: do you access the internet? And in virtually every situation, people will say, well, yeah, we all access the internet. That's what we do. Okay. Um, I contend that we don't access the internet. Okay. When I open up my phone and I turn it on, I'm deciding who gets access to me. Okay. If I open the Facebook app, that's every bit as much me allowing Facebook to access me as it is me accessing Facebook. But here's the difference. If I walk away from Facebook, if I choose to leave them, Facebook gets nothing from me. Okay. Facebook needs me monetarily. Now, it's entirely possible, like, for instance, if I'm running a business where I'm trying to generate income online, then that can be a reciprocal relationship, right? I can be allowing Facebook to access me so that I can get access to the other people who utilize Facebook. And then I'm trying from a business standpoint, I want access to those people's time, money, and attention. Okay. But if Facebook doesn't have all of those people to give me access to, in large part, they're worthless. Their value, any online platform, and now because all of our businesses um, work and function and live online, their value in everything is based upon that. If they don't have access to us, okay, if we don't grant them that access, then they become virtually worthless. Now, when we'll have these discussions, we'll see people over in the comments and they'll post, well, that's why I'm leaving Facebook. We should all leave Facebook. And in a way, there's a lot of truth to that. But the the thing is, when IOD Nations talks and when we're looking at this, our goal isn't to hurt Facebook. Okay. Our goal is we want and need a plethora of online platforms that are pro democracy so that when we go there, when we function there, when we purchase a product there, we know that it's benefiting our freedom and democracy. It's in line with our values. And so the objective is to either change a Facebook or I still call them Twitter. Um, it's to get them to act and function and to become pro freedom and democracy. And the way that we do that is if we organize online and we demand that, right? It takes a number of people to function that way and to apply that pressure. And that pressure only becomes uh, you know, workable or valid or effective when there are enough of us doing it. So, one of the things you're going to notice that we're going to do, Ashfak's going to help me remember this, is at the end of today's live feed, we're going to share a couple of email addresses um, and an email message. Now, in these, in almost all of the ones that you will see, these are email addresses or they're associated with groups that are um, pro freedom and democracy, that are on the same page we are, that are trying to accomplish the things that we're trying to accomplish. And I haven't been able to get a response. So, in other words, I've probably emailed Governor Newsom's office maybe 10 times. I actually got to the point where I called in and spoke to someone and tried to talk to them. But every most effective online personalities or groups or whatever, they're geared now to protect themselves from contact. They don't really engage. But if we were to get 100 emails or 200 emails or 1,000 emails to hit the governor's office at once, then we have a much better chance of trying to get them to talk to us, right? And that's the point, because what I what I'm what I try to get people to think of and what I try and get them to imagine is, can you imagine if tomorrow, for instance, Governor Newsom came out and made an announcement that he's now collaborating with 10,000 or 1,000,000 people. Sorry, Deborah. Hopefully we'll see you next time. We'll be on time next time, I promise. Um, hopefully, or if he came online, if Governor Newsom came online and he said, I've got 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000 citizens or Californians who now are forming an online citizen led parallel democracy. Okay. This is a democracy that those citizens run online and they run separately. Okay. For instance, we've got Regina who just came in. Okay. Regina might end up being elected as the president of the online California women's democracy. Okay. And so what happens then is Regina and her team have a direct link and direct contact with Governor Newsom. Okay. And so if again we go down the list here and we look at Romaine or Ida or Mark, okay, and if they are all citizens of um, online, democratic, citizen led Women's California, they work together. They they do polling, they discuss issues, they provide information, okay? And they say to Regina, this topic is something that we need to have dealt with our traditional California governance, which is led by Governor Newsom, okay? And so Regina, over time, as the president of this California women's state, I should say state if I said nation, um, she's working directly with them, right? She's engaged with them and she's communicating back with her group. But what's amazing is that not only is it the California women who have united online democratically, you also have California youth because they're looking at things and they're saying, wait a minute, we've been left out of government. You know, we don't really have a chance to impact things. We're gonna form the California Democratic Youth State. And we're gonna work in direct collaboration with the women of the state of California. And they're going to work together with the LGBTQ plus. And if you want a model of how this works, I believe it's in Barcelona. Okay. So in Barcelona, or actually, I think it was Taiwan. In Taiwan, if the citizens of Taiwan come up with an issue that's important to them, they put it out to the citizens of Taiwan. And once they reach 5,000 people who want that issue dealt with, okay, they present that online to the government of Taiwan. And the government, they've set up this system. They're they're online and they're directly integrated with the citizens of Taiwan online. And if the citizens of Taiwan online decide that this issue is important to them, then they get the damn issue dealt with. And they get to propose it. They get to construct how they want the government to deal with it, what they're expecting the government to accomplish. They're active participant citizens in their democracy, and they're making that happen. They're facilitating that. They're functioning the way that we're supposed to function as free and democratic citizens. And this isn't rocket science, right? If you if you go back and you study democracy, it's really just this basic fundamental mathematic equation, okay? The the larger number of collaborating people or citizens that you have in a democracy, then the larger democracy you have and the more functional your democracy is. Now, there's no rule about that that says your democracy has to be within the borders of the United States, Heather. So Heather says USA, that's what we're supposed to be, right? There's the 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 guy who the one of the guys that I quote, my dog is named after him, Bucky, is Buckminster Fuller. Okay. And basically what he pointed out, he was one of the world's great inventors and great futurists. Okay. And what what he pointed out and what he realized is that for human beings, for society and everything, major change doesn't happen from within. Okay. He said, He said, don't fight forces, use them. We never change things from within. If you want to change something, make a better model that makes the previous model obsolete. Dare to be naive. Dare to be naive. Dare to believe that you can make a change. Dare to believe. I'm I'm here in front of 48 of you right now who are on here. I'm here because I actually believe in my heart that sooner or later I'm going to be able to convince enough people to unite online that it's going to change the world. Okay. That's just what I believe. I believe that the idea of people working together democratically is so basic and that we all understand it and that the eventually we'll just come to understand that the internet, our virtual world, is the most powerful tool and weapon in history. And we have we have businesses that have online strategies, corporations, nations, authoritarians. Okay, we have, China or Russia, where they control the whole narrative online on what's said and what's done and how it happens. And yet, for some reason, we have all of these people like you who are here listening to this, and we haven't united online. I just sent a copy of a speech that I think should be made. I sent it to Indivisible and 5051. If anyone here um, works with Indivisible or has any connections with Indivisible or 5051, if you could just make a comment there, we would really appreciate it. Um, and and I would love it if anyone here has a comment or a question. It would
I
really
do have
help
a
a
question
lot.
for you, Joel.
Okay, ask me a question.
Okay, so uh, in the recipe book, it's related to recipe book. You said uh, the subtitle says if three phone taps could save the world democracy, would you do it? So actually, I was trying to build an app, and I was looking for idea, and I was thinking, okay, so Joel has an idea. I mean, let's see if I can help him out building that app. And I have done a little bit of my research. We'll talk about it later when you want to hear about it. But my question to you is like, what those three taps could do? Like, you know, let's talk detail about those three taps. I mean, it's just we do hundreds and thousands of taps on our phones, clicks every day, but those are doing nothing for us, right? So we should, I think we should talk about more about like what those clicks and taps can, do.
Okay, so Heather, I don't quite understand um your question or what you said about cameras. Cameras have proven to be almost as important as the internet. Um, but let me ask Heather, or I will ask anyone else here. Um, Heather, you can. I'm going to ask you to ask me a question. You can use cameras for that. Like you feel cameras are something that's really important, or you can use anything else, or anyone else here can. Ask ask me a question on of something that concerns you. Okay, what's an issue that's important to you, and what do I mean? What do we mean when we say you can deal with this with a few taps of your screen? So, anyone out there who would uh, like like to see this addressed in real world, because understand this is what's different here. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the horrible things about this Tennessee bill or the voting bill that puts women in a situation where I mean, I don't know how many of you um, compre- uh, comprehend. I don't want to sound like I'm talking down. This news, I think it's the SAFE Act or something like that. Basically, what it does is it says if you want to vote in the United States, you will have to present a passport, which costs about $130. So for a lot of people, they don't have passports. And that $130 means an enormous amount to them. So they're not going to have a passport. Now, the second thing you can present is you can present a birth certificate and a form of identification like a driver's license. Okay. But the bill goes even further. The bill says, and this is directly targeted at women. And this is one of the reasons why I choose to address women so often in our presentations. Um, the bill says if the last name on your birth certificate does not match your identification, you have to provide another certified form of identification that states why. So for instance, you might have to provide your marriage certificate, right? So so now what you've done is you've relegated women to where they're either paying a poll tax of $130. Hey Lori, thank you so much for being here again. We're so happy to see you. Um, that's a poll tax on women. Or you're look at that, Heather. You might not be able to vote with that. Where your government is literally looking at taking away your right to vote. Okay, and so how do we'll just say women because let I love to joke about this, but it's really not a joke. We're all here because of white men. Okay, primarily wealthy, powerful, influential white men are the ones that have gotten us to this point where our government in the United States is failing and freedom and democracy across the world is at risk. So women need, you got to clean up our mess, ladies. We screwed the pooch here, pardon the expression. So Heather says, how do you have knowledge equality when not everyone has access to smartphones and the internet? How do you hold the government accountable without a camera? I don't quite understand the camera. So, Heather, the answer to your question, because so Ashfak proposed that very same question in a different way to me, or maybe it was Draco who did it. For those of you who don't know, um, Ashfaq, Draco, and Rakesh, who work with me on this project, are all from Bangladesh. Okay, they're just these amazing guys. They're severely underpaid. Okay, but they help ground me and they provide this other point of view. And Ashfaq presented presented much of what Heather just said. He said, but Joel, what about the people in Bangladesh who don't have access to the internet? Okay. And that's a really legitimate, really important question that needs to be dealt with. And this is going to sound dismissive, but this is one of these really tactical, strategic, functional answers that we don't get from leaders and politicians very often anymore. And in essence, and I'm going to say it a bit more direct to Ashfa and to Heather right now, we can't get caught up in what happens to the 2 to 5% of the world population who don't have access to the internet yet. Okay. Our job as the people with the access to the internet is to seize control of the internet, take dominion over the internet. And then once we do that, we can start putting the things in place to get those people access to the internet, to get them access to a phone, or at least, we could, Ashfaq could go out and set up a booth in a little storefront or something somewhere in Bangladesh, and it could just be a it could be a freedom and democracy information booth. Okay. And you could have 3 or 4 phones in there, old worn out phones. Um, and they could go in there and get access. And we solved that. So Heather, when you say start from the other direction, are you saying start from the top down? Hey, go ahead.
So, I mean, I also want to Heather's question on the same thing that you were talking about, but I have a different approach, and there are some other important messages that we are missing out. So, let me just read out Jonathan Rubin's message that I don't have any knowledge, and I hope you can shed some light on that. So, Jonathan Rubin said, "Why can't the Supreme Court see that as a sinin?" I cannot even pronounce that word correctly. Uh, a sinin, I guess. So we need to address that. And Heather, actually, we are trying to, develop some platforms that would hold the government accountable. I understand what you're talking about. And maybe you, I, and all the people in this live chat can build such a, app or a platform that can use the camera to record, you know, the politicians or the corrupt people, action, and then spread it out to, everybody so that they know they have done this. It could be like done like a, something like a whistleblower app. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas. So Joel, go ahead. Take
Let me so I can address so the word is asinine,
mine. Okay.
Ashfaq. So it means like how can they be an ass? This
Okay.
is this is the whole point of this. This is what makes everything different. Okay. This goes right back to what Buckminster Fuller said. He said, you don't change things from within. Okay. You build a better model that makes the previous model obsolete. So, Jonathan, our founding fathers put in place certain things about the Supreme Court, like how they would be nominated, um, how they would be answerable to the Constitution and all of these things. And those are broken now. Okay. The the Supreme Court does see it, but they see it through a lens of right wing, I'll call it religiosity. Okay. It's what the whole Project 2025 is. Okay. Um, they believe that it's something like the 7 pillars or the 9 pillars. So it's like politics, religion, education, business, media, all of these things. They believe that they need to dominate every major pillar of our lives from a religious standpoint. So the reason that the Supreme Court is acting the way that they are is because they're viewing it through a standpoint of imposing right wing Christianity upon the American public. Okay. That's why you see them proposing a law that says if your 10-year-old daughter is raped, they can force her to give birth to that baby because that's part of these fundamentalist religious teachings. There's a there's a show on Netflix. I meant to cut the actual time in it. It's called The Family. If you haven't watched The Family, everybody should go watch The Family. It's a documentary show about a young man who got into this very, very high level um, it's really like a cult, right? I was born and raised in Virginia, and there's this point in time in the movie where the head guy comes through, and they're talking to he's talking to all these young men that they're training to be the political religious leaders of the United States. And somebody asks him, and he says, "Well, but what do I do if one of my brothers here commits rape?" And the head guy, this moral and religious leader for them, says, "You don't do anything except protect them. Okay, that's your brother. Okay, he is fighting for our cause, and we're all flawed." He says something to that effect. It doesn't matter if he rapes, you have to protect him. Okay, and so they've been running these streams of young men through these training sessions, and the these are the people that you see, the Charlie Kirks and the Turning Point and whatever these other groups are. Okay, their whole the parameters of being patriotic to the United States or to the Constitution are gone. Okay, their job, their mission from God is to impose their form of Christianity throughout these pillars of human existence. And we're being subjected to that. That is why they're totally fine if Heather can't vote. Okay. If they put something in place, it really doesn't matter, because if Heather's going to be a good Christian American lady, she's going to go marry some man. Okay. And he's going to vote for her. That's the way God intended it, Heather. You just need to chill. Find yourself a
No,
good man.
okay, can I jump in to say a few words then?
Go ahead.
No, you're making fun, but I know this is a very serious topic, and we should actually. So, I would like to share with everybody how I see things. I could be wrong, but you gotta hear me out because I had
You
a
got to do it quick.
yeah, I mean, we had a national election in Bangladesh few days ago, or maybe a few weeks ago. So I didn't vote because there was no option to say that I don't feel confident about any of the politicians. Okay. And the whole system, I feel like it's rigged. And I think you guys already know Frank Zappa and one of his famous quotes that says, politics is just entertainment, uh, something lobby or something for the military complex. So I know all of these, votes and stuff are rigged. Everything was decided probably 20 years ago, and we are just seeing them and we are getting surprised. So if we think about it deeply, I mean, to me, I found the solution. I mean, Joel and I agree on this matter. That's why I've been working with him on this project, which is uniting on online can actually give us the power. I mean, they are just a few people and we are millions of people. Imagine what we can do. So that's why I focus on developing on alternative platforms, and Joel, has some different ideas. So let's hear from Joel.
So I'm going to respond to that. I'm going to respond to Anne. And this is one of Anne Swanson. She says, "Please do not call that Christian. It's it's not Christian values. It's not what Christianity teaches." And I believe that people have asked me, "Joel, you keep describing this, and it's like it's this progressive liberal thing, and there's no room for conservatives." Or it seems secular, and that there's not room for religions. Ashfak, Draco, and Rakesh are all Muslim. Okay. I'm not religious. I'm not overly a fan of religion.
Me too, man.
However, this cannot happen without religion. This cannot happen without Christians. And I believe that there should be an international online religion nation. Okay. And I believe that fundamentally what that does is we have to give the the religious people of the world and the Christians of the world. It sounds like Anne may be one of these, right? We need a place where Anne can go if she's a Christian, and and she can be in a community with people who share her values and share her beliefs, and they can work together. Yeah. So there she is. She says, "My church is Christian. We demonstrate against ICE." And just like Ashfaq brings me, and Draco, um, hey Draco, I want oh, we can't do it. We're on Substack. God dang it.
I can share my
Draco,
screen, but not audio. Actually, Lori
no,
said,
I'm not trying anything that we haven't worked out. I will not do it again.
all right,
Okay.
okay,
I won't do it. Okay.
Lori.
So, but Draco made this video and it's called Agent of Peace. And that's who Draco is to us. He is our agent of peace. And I envision a world where Draco and Anne would be citizens of the online religion nation. And they would be talking about ways to collaborate. They would be creating a platform and a means for engagement and sharing the ideas and the things that they believe in that are so important to us, right? And they would bring that to us, and we as the pro freedom and democracy citizens of the world who are also a part of that community would embrace that with them, right? And this is what's missing. We're missing this unity and this collaboration that understands that freedom and democracy is the bedrock, it's the foundation. And um, somehow or other, some way, some shape or form, we are going to get this platform to the point where when we do this and when we talk about it, we're going to get past the point of talking about theory, and we're going to get past the point of talking about ideas that we want to see happen. And we're going to be here actually talking about things that we want to accomplish, how we can unite online, or we're already united online, and what are the tactics and the strategies that we're going to take on this given day, okay, to help make that happen. And the 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 mechanism for making that happen is the internet. Okay. So I've talked about it. I'm gonna switch this one around for Anne, because Anne, you don't really know how much it means to have you guys engage with us here. So you said you're a parentheist. I already have a church community that welcomes LGBTQ and people with disabilities and a wide variety of theological perspectives. Okay. So instead of, so I've approached this before from a almost like a punishment standpoint to achieve our objectives. So I got in trouble because I shared a way that that a let's just say a large corporation could be targeted, and I have to be careful about that legally. So let's switch that around for Anne, and let's talk about how this this online religion nation could work for Anne's church and her community. And what we could do is they could come forth, we could have online National Religion Day, okay? And people from Anne's church could construct online learning opportunities or online activities or community events that could happen. And they could make it a point to promote how they live and breathe their Christian beliefs, and yet also do it in a way where the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of people who don't share those beliefs still happen. And they can share how important that is, because ultimately, um, Anne Anne is Anne is in as much in danger if this religious right Christian nationalism. I think I'm using the words the way, okay, and you support James Tallarico as I do, okay. Um, th- they're Once they obtain dominion, if they get control over the world, they will come for you, Anne, okay, because it is not safe for them to have or they'll come for James, certainly. It depends on how spoken and visible you are. Um, just because you're Christian doesn't mean they won't come for you. Okay. You can look back on authoritarianism. Authoritarianism always goes through these stages where it comes after the people they don't believe in. And so we have to be aware of that. So Heather says, this sounds good in theory, but how do you set it up so you end up helping the people on the ground in different geographic areas? So, Heather, when you say you're on lists, are you saying you're on lists of like the kind of people who the authoritarians might not like? I'm assuming that's what you're saying. And give me a geographic area, if you would. Um, and thank you for asking the question. Yeah, I'm going to be on that list too. I'm supposed to travel out of the country in a certain month coming up, and I wonder how I might be welcomed back into the country, because by the time that happens, I'm going to make damn sure that this idea has blown up. But let's let's say Heather is okay. Heather, I'll give you a perfect example. I made a New Year's resolution that I was going to put forward the getting people talking about online citizen-led democracy in the year 2026, and I was going to turn it into a um, local, state, national, and worldwide discussion. Um, so you're saying, for example, people here wanting to help students in Iran. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Heather, for asking that question. Wow. This is this is like one of the most mind-blowing answers. Now you have to understand I'm kind of a dreamer, okay? I think big. So I watch I watch three I'm going to choose three primary nations and situations to focus on. And actually I'm going to choose four because I'm going to take Bangladesh, where these guys are from. So Bangladesh, Venezuela, What?
You need to come into the center so that people from mobile device
Sorry,
can.
sorry. Okay. So let's talk about Bangladesh, Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. All three of these countries are collapsing economically, socially, politically as we speak. Um, so uh, Heather says, how do we help the students in Iran? So imagine this, and I'm actually going to throw another one in there. I'm going to throw Ukraine because that's really the one that got me on this. One of the ones that got me on this direction. Okay. Now, I want you to imagine that not only do we have the International Online Women's Nation and the International Online Democratic Women's Nation and the International Online Democratic Youth Nation and the International Online Democratic Climate Nation and the International Online Democratic Art Nation. Okay. And these are all, they are actual nations. They have their own, um, they create their economy as a part of the online democratic economy. They have their own governance structures. So I think I forget who it was I referred to earlier about being the governor of Online Women's California, or even the governor of Online Democratic California. The the point of all of this is this, back to what Heather said. Imagine all of those students in Iran and they're rebelling, they're wondering what to do. And all of these other online nations, like the IOD Ukraine nation and the IOD Denmark nation and the IOD Canadian nation, they have all created these templates for how you set up an online government, right? How do you begin it? What are the beginning steps like? What are the first positions or offices that need to be elected and filled? Okay. And this is all running through NATO. NATO sets up a structure. These are the certain steps you need to take. And once you reach a certain point, okay, we now adopt you and we bring you under NATO's wings or under the UN's wings or under the online democratic nations of the world's wings. And we will help those students in Iran found the IOD Iran nation. So they're not just out there protesting. They all go online. They unite in this place. And all of a sudden, all of these online democratic nations, we're all aligned to support them because we realize this is a critical juncture in their history. Okay. It is imperative that we help those students and those people in Iran develop their own living, breathing democracy. And if that needs to happen online first, in order for it to build a better model that makes the previous model obsolete, so that those young people in Iran can dare to be naive and become the architects of their future and not the victims. Look what we've accomplished. Now, the people of Russia, the people of Venezuela, the people of Bangladesh, all of a sudden, they see that this is out there and available, and they know that if they get enough of them to unite online and say they want to found this online nation, all of us in this online democratic world of nations, we're going to support them. We're going to immediately begin to put things in place that give them, um, you know, financial support, that integrates them with our economy, that starts to point out what's going on and help them get their message out and communicate it. And we create this online structure, this online model that any group of citizens in the world that wants to unite, all they have to do is click on and say, we need your help. Can you help us become an online democratic Iran nation? And we're going to look at them and we're going to say, hell yes, we can help you. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to give some things up, right? Um, you can't, you can't get life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Doesn't mean that everybody always gets what they want. It means that you have to give some things up in order that all of us can get things that we want. And that's what's really important about this. Um, so Heather, did that answer your question? Because when I watch Iran, when I watch the protests there, if you noticed, um, uh, the Iranians got their internet shut down. The Russians right now, the Putin has shut down Telegram, which is the primary method that Russian citizens have still been able to communicate with the free world. When Putin shut down Telegram, okay, so that citizens in Russia could not unite online in protest for what's happening there, he also shut down Telegram, which is the primary communication method that his military uses on the front lines in the war. So what he did, it was so important to him to control the internet. He shut it down, and now Ukraine is making a big push because they don't have internet access because they lost Starlink and they don't have Telegram. And Putin said, I don't care if those soldiers have to die. I have to do this to control the population. And that's the power of the internet. And if we flip that, Heather, if we give that to any groups that want to organize, once we get the first one or two, all of the others are just going to happen. If we could just get the citizens of California or the citizens of Ukraine or the citizens of Canada or Denmark, you know, these world citizens who have full access to the internet, ours hasn't been taken away yet. It's imperative for us to utilize this tool and weapon to achieve our goals and objectives. And and it it requires involvement. It requires collaboration. We have to reach a point where when we're having these discussions, instead of talking about where we want to get, we're sitting here talking about, Heather says, oh my God, these students are protesting in Iran. How can we help them? You say, oh, we've got a link, you know, Anne and her group for religious freedom, they helped develop this link that's available that provides these young people in Iran immediate access and support to set up their own online governance system. Okay. And it's right here, it's available. And what we're going to do in a case like that is we might do an email blast from this live feed. Okay. We might send out an email blast. We might find the top 10 um, activists in Iran, and we might send each of them 100 emails from us that says, we represent the online democratic citizens of the world. Here are links that you can go to where we will engage with you and we will help you establish your democracy. Okay. Can you imagine if Iran was a free and democratic nation? They used to be the pinnacle of what's the term I should use, Ashfak, is so I know it's a Middle Eastern country, like what's the technical term to describe the region and the type of nation that Iran is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a Middle Eastern nation. Nothing special about it.
Okay, it's a Middle Eastern nation. Um, it's a it's a fundamentally Muslim nation, though, right?
Yeah.
So the objective, a Western oasis in the desert. Oh, Heather, we don't want an oasis. We're going to turn the whole fucking desert into an oasis. Okay. Um, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that'll get you on lists is when you start talking about things like that, there are people who do not want those discussions happening. Okay. Um, th- that brings me to a point right here. I I made a New Year's resolution. I made a vow that I was going to get this topic talked about. Okay. Uh, if you see these live feeds stop, and if you see me or us disappear from here before the world has begun engaging in topics about online citizen led democracy, yes, that is what it used to be. If you see that happen where I'm not here, either I got deathly ill or something happened to me. Okay. I am not going to stop until we get the world to discuss online citizen led democracy in a way that can make a difference in the world. That's just all there is to it. Um, so any other questions out there?
Okay. So actually, Laurie shared a few things, and I also wanted to talk to you about those three tabs ideas about the app building ideas. And then Cindy said something. Let's take a look at it. I'm not seeing how online nation can have a real world impact if it's an online nation. So go ahead, Joel. I think you should answer it first, then we can go back to Laurie's
That's
topic.
That's a great one. Hey, Lori, if you get a chance, we have a kind of rough video, but actually it's the introduction video on our website, iodnations.org. Go ahead and watch that. Here's and so my message that's in there talks about this. Um, what what is the name of the largest, most profitable company in the world right now? It's Amazon. I think I believe it was Microsoft and or something else, and Amazon just passed them. Okay, Amazon is an online corporation. Okay, they're they're everything that they've done was built online. Now, do they have, now they have functional brick and mortar regional distribution centers and all that? Yes, they do. But they began online. And so, Cindy, when I talked about Buckminster Fuller's quote where he says, you don't change things from within, build a new model that makes the previous model obsolete. There is no product or corporation or movement right now that does not, I think I know it's bigger than Google profitably, Lori. I won't say I know for sure, but my point is this: there is no business, corporation, um, state, movement, anything that anybody tries to do of consequence right now without an online presence. If you don't have a website that you can drive people to, you will not be successful. Okay. It just won't happen. if you go in, so let's look at the No Kings March that's coming up on March 28th. Okay. The communications for that march are all happening online. Okay. There's going to be, I don't know what the numbers are going to be, but it seems that this is going to be the biggest march and the biggest protest in world history. And the way that it's getting communicated, um, the way that they're sharing their messaging across all of these groups and across different nations is all happening on the internet. Okay. Now let's bring that down and let's bring that back to, let's say we're going to bring it down to a local government. Part of my thing that I decided to do after the first of the year is I will be at every county board of supervisors meeting that I can make it to. And I'm going to speak to them about online citizen led democracy. And they don't want to hear it. They don't like me coming there talking, I don't think, because they don't feel like they can do anything about it. And I live in San Luis Obispo County. And my message to them is we're conducting the biggest political science experiment in history. And my objective is I want San Luis Obispo County, where I live, I want our county to become recognized as the most pro democracy county in the world. Okay. Now, what I really am trying to do and what I really want, yes, I do want that for San Luis Obispo County, but way more important than that is I want every county in California and in the United States and ultimately in the world, I want them all competing to be the most pro freedom and pro democracy counties in the world, because that's how we win, right? We have to flip the switch. We have to get past the point of what we're trying to stop the authoritarians from doing. We have to get past the point of, how do we get them to change what they're doing? Or how can we get people into those offices? The reason that we go online is because we're building the next model, the future of freedom and democracy. And we have to lead that. Look, Anne asked the question. Let me read what Anne said. She said, one question that I don't even feel comfortable putting out in the universe is this. I've learned from several places that Russia has or is planning to remove internet access for all ordinary citizens except for government insiders, Russian insiders. What do we do if MAGA does this here? Okay. And I'm going to be a little bit tough on you. Okay. You're asking the wrong question. Okay. The question that we should be asking is, how do we make sure MAGA can't do that here? Right. I, I am sick of responding to MAGA. I'm tired of letting them determine what my actions are going to be. Okay. I refuse to fight for freedom and democracy based upon how they want the fight to be conducted. It's I'm I'm daring to be naive. I'm going to be the architect of the future. Okay. I'm not going to play their fucking game. We're going to dominate the internet. What is going to happen is this. I really, I want to get this across to you. At some point in time here in the future, the women of the world are going to unite online. They're all going to email NATO. We're going to ask a bunch of you to email NATO at the end of this. Okay. And we're going to do it at every show, every live feed, everything that we do. And sooner or later, there's going to be an international online democratic women's nation. Okay. And MAGA is going to be the ones contending. They're going to be the ones who are saying, what do we do if the IOD Women's Nation does this? The IOD's Women's Nation is boycotting our main financial contributor. What do we do to fight against them? I don't want to fight the fight on their terms. I want the women of the world. I want the youth of the world. I want the LGBTQ of the world. I want the BIPOC of the world. I want the nations like Ukraine and Latvia and Lithuania and Finland and all of those who are on the borders of Russia. I want them to all unite online, and I want them to dictate to Russia. Okay. We are in control now. Okay. We're not going to play defense against you. If you don't do what we want, we're going to fuck you up. Pardon the language, but we've got to start. We've got to start thinking as if we're the ones in control. We've got to step up and be the ones who say, this is how the battle's going to take place. We are going to dominate the internet. And if you're not a pro-democracy and pro-freedom corporation, we're going to put up filters. You're not going to get to us. You're not going to get our money without us filtering your access. Now, we're a free and democratic online society, and that's going to carry over into our trad nations. But when you want to deal with us online, you deal with us on our terms. We're the ones who set those terms. We're the women who are in charge of this thing, and we're not going to let you bastards do it to us anymore. Okay? We've got to change this mindset. How do we get people to understand that we have to assert our dominion? We have to step up and say, we're going to battle. You know, whenever I watch a sporting event, I coached soccer for years. When I watch a sporting event, I'm going to choose American football. Okay. Nobody wins the Super Bowl just playing defense they have to at least field an offensive team. And usually there has to be a balance in that team. There has to be a balance of offense and there has to be a balance of defense. Okay. So maybe Anne and the international online religious nation, maybe they're a little bit more defensive, right? They're out there, they're with a little bit softer sell. They're trying to engage with the other more conservative elements who are pro-democracy. They're trying to show how we can work together. They're sort of I'm going to try this. I really apologize to any women here if I offend you. I don't mean to say something offensive, but that's going to be the more feminine side, okay? Which is, how can we all work together? What can we do? We want to collaborate and all of that. But on the other side, okay, I need Lori to be she needs to be the goddamn offensive coordinator. And Lori's not doing that side of it. This is the carrot and the stick. Okay. We have to be willing to ruthlessly use both of these. And Lori's over on the other side and she's saying, oh my God, I'm so glad I've got Ann over here working on this side where they're bringing people together and they're doing this and they're out there uniting and they're showing these people how they can come be a part of what we're doing. But on the other side, okay, I've got Lori, and Lori's kind of a bitch. And Lori's like, I'm really glad I've got Ann over there, but who are these assholes in Tennessee trying to pass a law that says it's murder if I have an abortion? I'm going to fucking crush them. Okay. I'm going to put together a group of women and we're going to put together an economic assault on the state of Tennessee. Okay. And we're going to kick their ass. Those bastards are not going to fuck with us again because I'm Lori Schmier and I'm the offensive coordinator for the women's nation of the world. And I'm not taking your shit anymore. Okay. How do we get how do we get some group of people somewhere in the world to unite and establish this offense and this defense, right? How do I get the Draco of the world, who's the agent of peace, who says, I'm out here to get us all to work together and to live in harmony and do all of those things. And then how do I get the other side who says, well, yeah, but there's still these pricks over here who are never going to do that. And they've got too much power and influence. And I'm going to go kick their ass for a little while. And I'm going to shove them a little bit further down in their hole so that I don't have to deal with them. We can't just be nice and think that this is all going to happen. It doesn't work that way. I wish I could remember the quote. There's a quote that says, the only way that the wealthy and powerful give up their wealth and power is if you rip it out of their hands. Okay? They are not going to give this to us. We have got to get to them. And so it has just happened that in this group, in the first people who have really engaged with us since I got the balls to go on camera because I was such a coward for so long, are women. And honestly, I'm one of those men who does much better when there's a woman there who helps balance me out, right? I get fired up and I have these big ideas and dreams and all this stuff. There has to be that balance. And the world needs strong women to step up now. Okay. The men are in control. I mean, if you're watching what's going on with the Epstein files, let's be perfectly clear. If you're not watching that in depth, okay, there is a large group of wealthy, powerful, primarily white men. Okay. A lot of the women that work with and support them have been abused into that support or at worst, or they're just incapable of understanding what they're doing. But these pedophiles, these sex traffickers, these torturers of little girls, okay, they are not going to allow themselves to be prosecuted. They are not going to give up the power and influence that they have unless we unite in ways that rip the power out of their hands and prosecute them. And if we don't do that to a significant level and force them underground and force them to realize there needs to be like this ninja group of women across the world that are funded and supported, and they are tracking these motherfuckers everywhere they go every day of their lives, or at least once a week. Okay. And they need to know that if they get caught again, they're going to get in trouble. So Lori says, so how do we go about achieving that? Take and give back to us free and harmonious democratic societies. You unite online, Lori. That's all there is to it. Just imagine what happens if you wake up tomorrow and Mark Rutte, who's the head of NATO, I think he's the former prime minister of Netherlands, and if they come out and say, and this is what's in my speech that I want given, I want this speech given at the No Kings rally. I want the No Kings rally. I would really prefer it happen a lot earlier, but if we have to wait for the No Kings rally, I want every speaker at every rally everywhere in the world to ask the people who attend that rally to send an email to NATO asking to become a recognized, accredited online democratic citizen. Okay. And I want you to imagine if Mark Rutte comes out and makes an announcement. I would like to announce that NATO has begun collaborating with the 10 million online democratic citizens of the world who emailed us. And we're currently in the process of setting up the IOD Women's Nation, the IOD Youth Nation, the IOD Ukraine Nation, the IOD Canadian Nation, and the IOD Climate Nation. And we know there's going to be many more. We cannot tell you exactly what we're going to achieve now, but we are going to fundamentally change the power and influence of freedom and democracy across the world with these online citizen-led democracies that will now officially be recognized by NATO. That's how you do it, Lori. It's just that simple. You get enough people to email NATO where they have to listen. Okay. NATO will respond. NATO is deathly worried right now. All of our economies across the world are in trouble. Theirs are actually going to be better off, I believe, than the United States. But the citizens of Europe, the United States has stopped funding the Ukraine war, which is critical to world freedom and democracy, which means it's critical to women's rights in the United States and across the world. Okay. NATO is funding that. Cindy, it could be the United Nations. If but I'm going to focus on NATO because that's who I chose. Okay. Um, I chose NATO because I believe everything's tied to Ukraine. Um, but so I forget what the question was that I was answering. Um, the My point is that once that egg is cracked, once you have the first online citizen-led democratic nation, the whole world's going to follow. I was talking about NATO and the money. These citizens of NATO their tax dollars are now enormous amounts of money are being funneled into Ukraine to fight that war. And on the opposite side of that is China and Iran. Okay. They are and some of these authoritarians, they're funding millions and billions of dollars in to fight against Ukraine. Now, China will come out and say, oh, we wish to be viewed neutral and we look for a positive end to all of this and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, they're sending the money and they're trying to keep the war going. And a year and a half or whatever ago, Chairman Xi said, we cannot allow Russia to lose this war. So China is only interested in the war ending on the best terms possible for Russia, which means the worst terms for the women of the world. That's just what it boils down to. And so I choose NATO because those countries are they recognize the risk the most, right? They realize that China and Iran and Russia are attacking them and that the objective is to turn them into, if not authoritarian nations, then subvert under the dominion of these authoritarian nations. Okay. And we have to prevent that. And so the young men, victims, and survivors too, Lori. Oh my God. That's the other thing. If you look at this again, I think it was Anne. Again, I don't want to offend from a religious standpoint, but there is the the religious bent on this related to trans and gay people. Okay. We literally now have the GOP protecting and preventing the evidence from being made available of gay men raping young trafficked boys. And that is what the Christian nationalist movement in the United States is doing right now. Okay. They are protecting those gay rapists. That's the point that we have reached. And this is not going to change unless we change it. So, NATO is North America, Atlantic nations, United Nations is the world. It is. I don't know if you know this. Did you know that Trump has virtually eliminated all funding to the UN? The United States does not participate from a funding standpoint. Uh, Trump and the GOP have eliminated 99% of the U.S. funding, even the U.S. funding that was previously passed by bills and authorized to the Ukraine war. And Trump has stopped that money from going in. Trump could literally step up and say, I'm going to impose a tariff on China if they don't stop funding the war in Ukraine, and the war would end. And he won't do it. And the reason is because he's being controlled. The GOP is being controlled. And they're all being controlled. They're all being blackmailed because they filled themselves with a whole party of pedophiles. And they're all getting blackmailed by this evidence. And if we could just get the evidence released, then we could change it. And so it comes back to, I think it was Lori's questions. How do we make it happen? How do we get to the point where I'm up to 82 people in here or who have been here? Okay. I'm so desperate to get to the point where when we're meeting here, we can do this meeting in 5 to 10 minutes. We have um, we have several causes or issues that we're here to address because we're not part of the International Online Democratic Nations live feed to try and get people to follow us. We're now participating in the International Online Democratic Nations live feed where we're getting shit done. Okay. And Anne is stepping up and she's giving her presentation. This is where our defense is. This is what we've done. This is who we've engaged with. This is how we're working with them. And we need as many people as possible to participate in this activity. And we're going to send these 3 emails and we'll be done in 15 minutes and everybody can go back to their lives and we'll update you next week on what the effects have been. And then Lori comes up and says, okay, gals, that's enough defense. Let's go crack some nuts. All right. This is what we're going to do. Okay. This is the group that presents us with the biggest issues right now. Here's the 4 ways that we can deal with them. I need you to vote on them, pick the top 2, and then I'm going to share my strategy with you on what we're going to do to go after those bastards. And the your whole International Online Democratic Women's Nation right there in this feed, that vote pops up and you choose from those 4. You select the.
Hey, Joel. Your mic is your something is wrong with your mic. We cannot hear you. No. Sorry for the interruptions, guys. So please wait while Joel fixes his mic. So while sorry, man, I can't hear you. I will definitely let you know as soon as uh, we hear from you. So Joel is writing something. Yeah. So go ahead, Joel. You can unplug and plug your mic, and then you have. Yeah, I'll keep talking. Let me just help you out. So you have, some options down below where it says mic video. So, all right. Now let's get back to talking about what Joel was talking about. You know, NATO and IOD Nations, how, uh, you know, things can change for us, right? So, I mean, I have different ideas than Joel's, uh, you know, but we are, uh, you know, we are united. I mean, we are actually, like mixing our ideas and forming something that actually works. Or I don't know. I mean, we are throwing out ideas that I'm just blabbering. Sorry, Joel, we can't hear you now. Sorry, man. Okay, okay, okay. So let me share my screen with you for a moment while Joel tries to get back. So I want to talk about uh, a little bit about Joel's idea. So Joel wrote a book that's called "The Recipe." If three phone taps could save the world, would you do it? And I was like in a mood to build some apps, and I came in to discuss, or brainstorm some ideas. So here are some ideas ChatGPT shared. What could we actually accomplish with three tap democracy? So either we can build an app that's faces, this problem, political apathy, fragmented civic participation. So these are just some ideas, okay? I'm just showing it to you, and then we will go back to a bill that Laurie shared with us. You know, uh, it's probably from definitely from Crockett. So let me read out a little bit, and if anybody wants to comment on that or want to actually join us in the conversation, we are actually going to end this call pretty soon if Joel cannot get back. So let's talk a little bit about Crockett Payback Act bill. Okay. So it's a bill to direct the Secretary of the United States Department of the Treasury to refund American consumers for erased costs resulting from tariffs imposed without congressional authorization and for other purposes. So there are some points. If anybody here want to discuss about it in our live call, just drop a comment and we will bring you into the call so that we can discuss about it. If not, I guess we have to call it a week. So I'd like to thank everybody, whoever joined and participated. So, Joel, any luck? No, man, can't hear you. So, really sorry. No, man, it's still not working. Really sorry for everyone for the inconvenience. I hope we will have a better setup next time when we do this live. We'll probably come back on Friday and we will have a Zoom link so that you guys can come in and be on the live, be a part of the discussion. So Jim says, I hear you. Thank you so much. So actually, Joel is the founder of IOD Nations, and he was discussing some pretty amazing ideas that I do not know, you know, about. So Joel is calling me from a messenger. I'm gonna hang this up. Joel, let's end this, right? Joel, can you hear me? So let's hang up. You guys have a nice day. Joel, I'm gonna hang up from Messenger and I'll call you back right after I finish this Substack so that we have a proper ending for everybody. So thank you everybody for joining us. We will be back on Friday with a Zoom link where you can participate with us. And we will Joel, you can actually, if you have a message, you can write it in the feed so that people can see your message and you have a proper closing too. So thank you again, and I am just finalizing this chat by copying all of the conversation that we had in our feed. Hopefully, we will have a better setup where you can join us. And really sorry, yeah, I have to sign off. Going to Zoom meeting with my friend in Sweden. So you guys have a nice day. Bye bye.